Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a Temerian Tuesday. It's the start of the season of love, and there are a lot of balance changes. Not all of them do I love, but we're going to cover them nonetheless. So let's walk you through. First things first, Season of Love brings with it a new journey. Yennefer of Vengerberg. About time. I think she honestly should have been in Alzor's place, but they might have wanted to do like male, female, male, female. Personally, I'm a fan of Settlers of Catan and how you would go first, second, second, first. But, whatever. Yennefer is a much bigger character. People know who she is. I think people are pretty pumped to see her. The Dreams of Nimue seems a little bit weird to bring in Lady of the Lake. I know she features prominently in the final installment of the Witcher books. But I don't think she's as deeply connected with the player base as maybe like a Triss would have been. But, it is what it is. Still cool to have a new journey. We'll check out all her visual effects and stuff as we play games this week. But let's get on to the balance changes. First things first, they made all locks cheaper because people were really enjoying how large Lockdown was factoring on ladder. They thought it made for just really good gameplay, really good player interactions, lots of fun things. I'm very sarcastic there. But Aguara is now cheaper. And then a lot of the bombs became cheaper here too. Damage increase on Dimeridium. Derige is, lock, his provision is down from 7 to 6. Aguara has that lock where you can either lock a unit or clear a lock. It's not a purify. I wish it was a purify, but the lock or clear lock is helpful. And then high value on the Aguara as well. So just good points. But Derige also had a point boost to 6. So here you see power change from 5 to 6. I don't know why they didn't just put that on the same line. It's a little bit weird. Maxi von Decker is an awkward card. I don't love her, but provisions went down. Hopefully see more play. Nivellen changed from 8 to 6 is going to be a really big deal for some movement decks. Also for bomb decks. He's just really expensive. He plays for 5 points. So now you're playing the movement for basically a 1 point in the provision there. But he does move 3 units that are next to each other. They have to be adjacent. You don't get to choose them like you do with Aired. So, I think this makes sense. I think I would have been okay with him also getting a power boost like Derige did. But that's fine. Regis changed from 2 to 3 is stupid. That's not the change that Regis needed. Yeah, I don't know. Initiative just nuked the card. It was already really difficult to set up, and I think in the current meta, it would honestly function fine if they just removed the initiative. But we are where we are. Scorch is now a little bit cheaper, easier to access. Don't know why. Curse of Corruption, I think, is still going to be the card of choice since it's 2 fewer provisions and you don't have to worry about matching. And the initiative on Scorch makes the matching difficult anyway. Vedermacher, power change from 5 to 6. Cool. I think the provision change there is a little bit better. So for our Weathermaker's deck, a lot of those card inputs are now a little bit cheaper with Vedermacher and with Nivellen, so we'll be trying that one out, seeing if we can get some cool stuff working there. Xavier's provision changed from 8 to 6. His ability is now a Zeal Order and a cooldown of 1, so you can get things out of the graveyard. Hopefully see some good value with him in Nilfgaard decks. We're going to get to that later on, but I think the Viper change would synergize really well with Xavier, which makes sense in the lore. So, get in on that. And then Yennefer of Vengerberg, provision changed from 11 to 10. Remember, Yennefer of Vengerberg is the damage all units by 2 to melee or boost all units by 2 to ranged. So some good swarm interactions you can get out of her. And then Yennefer Conjurer gets Zeal, which is cool. Provision change from 10 to 9 is very cool. Yennefer Conjurer, for those of you who don't remember, Also, this provision to 9 could be cool for synergy with stuff like Ciri, but she damages the opponent's highest unit by 1. If they all are matched, she'll damage all of them at the same time. So you can do cool stuff with her in like, I think maybe see her in some Revenant decks as a good example. You can just kind of nuke down the value, use Curse or Corruption to get rid of the big units, and then archers and others to ping down enemy units to the same level, and Yin Conjurer to just eliminate mass value from the opponent's side of the board. So she would work really well for that. So now getting to the faction changes, Overwhelming Hunger charges change from 3 to 2. I think this makes sense. I think the provision bonus works here. Yeah, I think this is, I don't know that this is the change I would have made to it, but I think that this comment is what we've been saying for a long time. It's been the best for forever, for months and months. It's just so good, so easy to use, and it makes so many difficult plays for the faction that much more playable. So we'll see how this works. I think buffing the Death Wish cards might be cool. Haunt was made more expensive and they didn't change that. So I think that this pairs really well with it. But we are where we are. We'll see what this does. Overwhelming Hunger makes a Death Wish card completely uninteractive without any setup, which is very restrictive for us. This was visible in the past, but because very apparent with V joining the card pool, clearly they needed someone to edit some of this language. The copywriter was not getting paid enough for when they wrote this one. Basically, managing consumes with VDEX is now more consuming. I'll believe it when I see it. I think the provision change on V is more important here. Ekimara power change from 2 to 3, so you're now getting an extra point for each of these charges. So the basic point value that you're getting out of the actual Ekimara consumes is bigger. The base value of them is bigger. Kind of resist Yrden a little bit more. And the provision boost is also kind of a big deal. So you miss 1 consume, but you get the same number of points with an extra provision. That's because 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6 and 3 plus 3 is 6. So there's your math. V power change from 8 to 7. I don't necessarily understand why they did that. I think what I would have liked to see here was actually power change from 8 to 9 and then the boost reduced from 3 to 2. That would make it an immediate target for Geralt kills, and would also make the 2 damage units set up better for Ignis and Yrden's. The 3 value just kind of becomes problematic for certain cards like there's a lot of 2 damage cards in the game. There's a few 3 damage like Bear Witchers, but most are 2 damage or single damage procs. Bridge Troll changed from 5 to 4. That's fine. He boosts the highest unit when on the Death Wish by 4. So, that's fine. Harpy, token spawned by Harpy Egg, power change from 5 to 6. It's now a little bit better. I think a lot of people thought that this was going to be a cool combo to get that, to get the bonded out of the other harpies, and then to get this harpy when it spawns from the Harpy Egg for more value. I don't know. I think it's still, bonded cards are not my favorite because you have to draw into them simultaneously, and separately they are not worth much value. So you just have problems there, in my opinion, with with draw consistency and with monsters, especially since Naglfar is such a good gold card tutor and top decker. Bronze has just kind of become dead weight. Katakan and Eater both have provision nerfs. Eater I still don't think makes enough sense. It's basically like a really expensive Lonely Champion from Syndicate, but as a bigger target, and the immunity is still a difficult thing to get with the adrenaline. So with Lonely Champion you get it out of the gate, no questions asked, but Eater you have to get that adrenaline proc. Catachan, power change from 6 to 5. I don't know. Catachan is a cool card on the Death Wish and Deploy synergy. I just this one, it feels bad, man. It feels bad to nerf vampires when like there's just not that many great vampires. Catachan was one of the very few good tempo plays that they had, and they just feels bad. Puka armor change from 1 to 0 for who knows why. I mean, they're giving it this Thrive 2. I I don't really I think that they wanted Puka to do cooler things than Puka did. I don't I think they're just trying to make it seem like it's a cooler card than it is. We'll see. But Thrive 2, since it just doesn't make sense to me because the whole point of Puka is that it should be able to boost itself for your units or the opponent's units. I think I would rather see like Puka and Necker swapped. So the Puka, you're dropping out 2 really low value units that get Thrive procs every time somebody's playing a card. That would be cool synergy. I think giving it Thrive 2 just makes it so that your own Thrives are proccing or your opponent's Thrives are proccing. That you're not really getting much synergy value out of both your own Thrives and the opponent's Thrives because its value is going to get up so quickly that unless your opponent's playing like really tall cards like V or Hemdall, you're not going to get much value there. So I would have rather seen a change that other direction just to swap with Necker and give Necker like the higher value. But I guess they already have the other older Necker character that has that kind of ability. So, but a little bit more thought there, I think would have been welcome. Rotfiend changed from 4 to 5. Cool. I think I would have rather seen a provision nerf there than the power change, but that is what it is. And then Wild Hunt Hound provision changed from 5 to 4. Long time coming, but nothing done to change Oberon. Oberon's still the worst of the leaders, in my opinion. You do get the extra Thrive proc if you're playing low value cards like Andrega Larvas or Neckers early. But if you're playing him later or in a tight round 3, he struggles. There's the lack of consistency is just kind of gross. I think I'd like to see him work really similarly to how Brothen's works, where it is based off of cards you include in your deck. Then you could just opt to not include Wild Hunt Hounds because they're still power 3, and you still have to have dominance for them to get boosted. Brokevar Hunter ability is now tied to range row. Cool. Don't really know how that changes much. I would say that his typical inclusion is in a Lippy deck, which is already countered pretty strongly by Scoia'tael movement. So providing another weakness to Scoia'tael movement when that already was a good counter, since Saris always plays the melee row to get out all of the Drummond Shield Maidens, who would then get damaged every time Gezrus goes to that row. That's why I'm thinking it's a good counter. It's also just like really good engine value on the upside engine value on the Scoia'tael movement. That Lippy really struggled with. But anyway, then Jingafet locks are cheaper now. His power changed from 6 to 7, so he got a little bit of a buff. Giant Boar ranged ability can now target allies. Provision changed from 7 to 6. Giant Boar, for those of you who don't remember, is just the big boar that gets boosted by every damaged unit you choose, melee or ranged before. Now ranged ability can target allies. That's boost self by the amount an enemy or an allied unit is damaged. So if you have like big damage onto like a Torsic veteran, they're the guys who play for 8 points, damage themselves by 3 when you drop them on the board, and then you can just damage them down and they go back up on Berserk. Or I think Bear Witchers make more sense there since you can damage them down. Heron Kaduk heal change from 3 to 2. I think this gives better synergy, better value output for Vesemir Mentor. It was a little bit awkward to play Bear Witcher with Vesemir Mentor. They damage themselves by 3. They're already pre-boosted by 1. So the heal only boosts them by 2 anyway. So now that's not really a big deal if you're playing with that card combo. Otherwise, it's a loss of 2 points, but I never felt like this made a big difference. Heyme Flaminica, power changed from 5 to 6, so she plays for more points now. I think provision nerf there would have been better than power change, but we are where we are. And then we'll see if we can get him working. I've had some requests to do a him card a few months ago. We'll see if we can get him working again, but provision nerf here is really helpful. I guess provision buff, if you really think of it that way. Then Lippy power changed from 4 to 3, provision changed from 10 to 11. This is the problem that we're really more concerned about. The Roach and Knickers procs. This change with Lippy is just meaningless. When you're dropping Lippy and you have Morkvarg in deck and Roach and Knickers, Lippy was previously playing for 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3. So now he's playing for 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5. So, we go from 15 to 14. I don't think that's that big a deal. It's still one of the best tempo plays in the game for a single card play. And the ability to replay Heat Wave is a thing that was getting most people triggered this season. And Olaf is just weird. Whatever. We'll get back to him. Maybe we'll be able to see him get worked into some self-damage decks, but it's just some awkward card. So coming down Northern Realms. So provision bonus changed from 15 to 16 on pincer maneuver. Cool. It's still a sucky maneuver ability. Doesn't make much sense. Provision change on Archgriffin is huge. This is what we wanted to see the whole time. They finally listened. Why they did this as a 10 provision cost card will forever be out beyond my comprehension. But now it goes back into your deck. You can either tutor it originally or the second time or even a third time with your Amphibious Assault. Gets that boost, good synergy with Erland. So we will be making a deck around Archgriffin, since I think that's the biggest difference for Northern Realms. But really, really good synergy there. And then Pincer Maneuver just makes it so you can include a little bit more cards. And it does work well with Archgriffin. If you play the Pincer early, get the Archgriffin out. It's kind of like a finishing play against your opponent. And then you can tutor it back out with Amphibious Assault, put it back into your deck, and then strip all that boost off with Erland for incredible late game, especially in a short round 3 or in a 2-0 situation. I still hold that Erland is one of the best 2-0 cards in the game. Griffin Witcher Ranger, ability change to formation. Cool, weird. I don't know why they did this, but that's fine. I guess now he can always get one boost as long as you're playing him to range and being patient there. Maybe we'll see him in an Ildico deck where he can get Zeal and pass those boosts on. But the formation makes this awkward because you're still choosing it based on where your opponent's units are, not based on how you want the formation to work. So this is a weird inclusion that I don't think really changes him. I think I would have much rather seen Ranger changed just to have a higher base value, because he just plays for only 2 points in a short round is just kind of clunky. And he doesn't have an adrenaline proc on him, but he requires late round play for value. So you kind of have this anti-synergy with Griffin Witcher Ranger in that you are saving your adrenaline cards to play them later into the round, and he's causing and creating conflicts with those same cards by waiting to be played as well. So, but he is a cool card that plays really well. Also with Archgriffin, since you can move the boost from him onto the Archgriffin after the Archgriffin is played later. Margarita Laurentile, power change from 5 to 6, provision change from 7 to 6. So Northern Realms only lock just got cheaper. And she has a higher point value. I don't know. Reinforced Trebuchet, it now has crew, so if you put it in the crew pocket, it damages an enemy unit by 1 instead. So Reinforced Trebuchet and Alvin Pikeman now have better synergy. not synergy, rather have good equity. But now more in line with other 5 provision engines, I don't know that that puts them truly on par. Having to set up crew is more difficult than setting up bonded, in my opinion. Bonded, you still get the value off of the melee row damage for the unit that's already there, and then you drop down the other one and you're getting 2 damage per turn regardless of what row the opponent's units are on. But with trebuchets, you got to set up the crew pocket first, and best case scenario, you're getting like a Carrack frigate spawning units. That's still going to take you 3 plays because either it'll be on the 3rd turn when you got 2 of the little dudes next to the Carrack frigate spawned, or you have to have played the extra soldier both to the left and to the right of the frigate in order to give the frigate crew that it needs to spawn more crew members. So I think that that's worse, but you never know. I still think Siege is the weirdest and clunkiest and doesn't make the most sense. It also doesn't, for lore reasons, doesn't make the most sense for Northern Realms either, but we are what we are. I think a Garrison would make more sense than Siege, but we are. It is what it is. Call of Harmony for Scoia'tael, provision bonus change from 15 to 16. The devs have been under the gross misunderstanding that Harmony is still good. It's just not. It requires way too much setup. The setup is quite obvious, and it's just clunky. Barclay L is changed from 7 to 6. It's fine. Cat Witcher Saboteur power change from 3 to 4, so he gets a buff there. And then Cat Witcher Adrenaline change from 4 to 3. I don't know why he got this nerf. I thought Cat Witchers were actually pretty well balanced on the whole, especially compared to the other Witchers. He gets no value when played to certain rows, and in order to have a full movement package, you're opting out of other points and tempo that you would have generally. So I don't really know what they're going for there, but we shall see. Karen Esnilian. Probably one of the best lock cards, since you can move row requirement units both off of their row and lock them. And then Dana also gets a boost here, so this is weird that they decided to put these separately when she is only played as part of Call of Harmony. But Dana Mad power change from 6 to 7, so she gets higher value onto the board. Cool, but weird. I would rather seen her go from like 6 down to 4 and then have a double proc on Harmony. That way you get her and Percival out early and get them both going early on in the round. You can only use her once, so forcing you basically to choose with the relic. Do you want the proc onto your Waters of Broccolon Dryads, or do you want to get her out early? And I think if you moved her to Harmony 2, then that round, if you played her and then played Percival, she would go to 6 and Percival would stay at 4. He'd have 2 armor, so they'd both have 6 power. You'd have them on different rows. That'd be a great opening move. You're at 10 points. It's not huge tempo, but it's clearly signaling that you're ready to rock. Holding that over to round 3 in a Harmony deck is very difficult. It's hard to get wins in rounds where you're getting a lot of pressure because Harmony does not have a lot of tempo value. And the change in Nilfgaard and Justice, which we're going to get to in a minute, makes that even more difficult. So, we are where we are. Yorvith, power change from 3 to 4 because that makes the traps decks better. I don't know. Yorvith's Gambit from 13 to 12. It's still a tactic card. There's nothing in the Scoia'tael deck card synergies, but whatever, in the entire faction that has synergy with tactic, yet Waylay and Yorvith's Gambit are still tactics. You have no way of tutoring them. It's an incredibly expensive card in Yorvith's Gambit, and the play requires perfect deck creation and draws to get the best synergy, right? The best play with the Yorvith's Gambit, which we have played many times, was the first legendary card I ever crafted, by the way, so keep that in mind. So, some salt is mixed in with that. My favorite play with that card is you would use portal to tutor in the scouts, and then because they boost themselves by 2 every time a trap goes off. But you first would play Yorvith's Gambit. That's going to get you a crushing trap. If you have played 2 other traps, or you have the other 2 traps in your hand, and you only have 4 traps in your deck. So typically, I would keep Mahakam Horn and Pitfall Trap, and then add 2 crushing traps. Cycle them back in the deck, but you'd also have to keep the Elven Scouts in your deck because you're portaling them in. So it just requires such obnoxious draws in order to get it to work correctly. And like if you're using Mahakam Horn, which is one of the best win condition cards in the game, especially when you're a higher up ladder, I'd say if you're in like ranks 20 and above, if you're a new player, because people don't know what it does, and you can get really good value out of playing a half elf hunter the half elf hunter on one side, and then the token elven deadeye on the other side of the horn. Pass, the opponent thinks they've won, they then pass, and you get boosted by 4 points on each side. Gets you some crazy good value with just 2 card combo and some surprise play. It also, even if they don't pass, they have to play often another card that's of high value to get over that. But anyway, if you're doing Mahakam Horn, you don't want to play it in the wrong round. You don't want to play it at the wrong time. And you definitely don't want to have to tutor that card with the Yorvith's Gambit when you're stuck in a pinch scenario. So anyway, enough of my soapbox on Yorvith's Gambit. And the Yorvith power change from 3 to 4 is trash. Like you're not playing Yorvith for value. It's like getting the Regis change from 2 to 3. Like seriously, the 1 point is gonna make a difference on like a big tutor or a point slam character who's doing damage value. No, it's not. This is not the change we want to see, but whatever. Maren power change from 7 to 6. She's a lock, so they made her cheaper because we don't have enough locks. Novigradian Justice ability change too. Now remember how this used to play. Cleaver's Muster would go to melee, and then you would play a dwarf or a crown splitter from your deck. You now have to control one. So here, play a dwarf or crown splitter from your deck. That's the first thing. So there's not already a dwarf on your board. If you already control a dwarf or crown splitter, also spawn a Cleaver's Muscle on allied melee row. So you're now only getting Cleaver's Muscle if you control a dwarf or crown splitter, which aren't all crown splitters dwarves, but I digress. Developer comment, Novigradian Justice became a mid-range card that is put into every single Scoia'tael deck. Yes, it was, and it was not a mid-range card. It's an expensive card. It's 10 provisions. 10 provisions is not a mid-range card, but I digress. And provides the player with big tempo play as well as double thinning. We would like this card to be a powerful tool for dwarf crime-based decks, and less so for other ones. Therefore, we add an additional condition that needs to be met to unlock the full ability. But now crime decks require 2 plays, and most crown splitter cards are just not great. Especially to play early on, you just have a lot of vulnerability there. But we'll see. And then Vermozil's Commando power provision change from 5 to 4. This is a long time coming, but I wish they would have just raised her power value from 4 to 5. That way, when she comes out with the scenario, she'd get boosted to 6 and would be a little bit more difficult to remove when you're getting so many low value tokens anyway. It would just make a little bit more sense to me. But this is fine. Nilfgaard, Imprisonment, provision bonus change from 15 to 16. Still the stupidest lead. It's just so counterproductive to the entire lock, seize, amnesty, etc. combo package, right? When you use Imprisonment, you no longer want to use Vaatier because you're damaging the unit. You don't just CDPR, just listen. This is not the change that needed to happen for Imprisonment. Whatever, it's trash. Not all of Nilfgaard's control leaders need buffs, though, right? I mean, nothing. They still don't get the most wins, but everybody's playing Lockdown because Saber can rock it like a monster, and everybody wants to be as cool as Saber is. So Alba Pikeman get the bonus, get the bonded bonus, damage a random enemy unit by 1 instead. So that's if there's both of them out on the board. They still are melee locked though, so you can't really like move them around. Although, we'll see. Anyway, Ox gets a buff from 5 to 6 power. I think that's cool. So now Serret still plays for 5 plus up to 4 damage. But you get like Letho playing down at 8, Ox at 6, Serret at 5. So you get just good point value out of playing that trio. Hopefully you get to see them more often, but they're just not all that helpful right now with Nilfgaard. Not enough tempo value and certainly not enough control. But the provision and power buff for Ox is a big deal. Experimental remedy provision changed from 6 to 5. I think that makes sense. I think it was always weird to me how expensive it was. Certainly not on par with amnesty. We'll probably see this more with Viper. Viper Witcher Mentor adrenaline changed from 2 to 3. Cool. He already was huge point slam round 1 though, so I don't necessarily know why this was the change that was most needed for that deck. I think I would have rather seen some other changes in order to get that deck to work. But look, making a deck swarm like the Nilfgaard deck bloating archetype more playable is not what the gaming community needs right now, in my opinion. We just have gone into a new type of control with this latest meta from the last season and a half. Before that was damage control. Lately it's been lock and lockdown control. We don't need more of that. We need cards to have the top end cards like V to be better balanced and have more fun and to have kind of weirder, like long setup engines, but cool combo engines. And Viper is one of those. I think that the Viper play here is going to be fun. I think that this is welcome. Viper Witcher Mentor is good point play, so we'll probably see more of him. But he's going to have to go with like Wear It the All-Seeing in order to get the best value. Syndicate Collusion provision change from 11 to 10. We've talked about collusion a lot. Collusion is difficult to get to work, but look, I'm open to seeing if we can get it to work again. Failed Experiment power change from 9 to 10. This is kind of a big deal in that you could play it late as Point Slam. It's a really fun card to play in an all bronze deck because it's such high value. But for me, it's kind of like a backwards Greatsword, and that makes sense. Greatsword is going to get first go down to 4 and then get boosted back up over time. Failed Experiment is going to start at 10 and go down. Fallen Rayla adrenaline change from 3 to 5 is huge. She was just creating so many conflicts late into the round. But I think the bigger problem for me here, she needed to get a power boost or to get like a 1-turn immunity, something to like stick on the board for a minute, because she just gets wiped off immediately. The Veil is not enough to keep her on the board. I think they included the Veil to like get some more synergy with Salamander, but Salamander's awkward, so I don't get it. Anyway, we'll see if we can get her to work. She is a super cool card, just really difficult to get value out of. Kurt, ability change to melee, plays a bounty on an enemy unit, ranged purify unit, provision change from 7 to 6, and power change from 5 to 6. Excited to see him get more play in Witch Hunter decks, bounty decks. I think this bounty play makes a lot more sense. And he never really was that great of a purify when Adalbertus is probably the best purify in the game. So I think Adalbertus is quite enough for Syndicate. And I think that Kurt makes much more sense in this change. So previously, the melee was a lock. So I think good, helpful change there. Now, Luiza coming out, she gets a tribute 3 to gain Zeal. Removing some of the risk that comes with playing Luiza. Now her ability can be activated immediately as long as you are willing to pay 3 coins for it. Yes, you're willing to pay for it. Yes, that's worth 3 coins. I think this is a welcome change. Makes Savala playable again. and it certainly, with this Fallen Rayla change, gives some tribute value to the Rayla with the Luiza play after the Rayla, and then also for the next card that gets played after you play the Luiza, or just it might not be the next card, but in the next couple of plays when you're paying for that tribute, getting really good value that way as well. And she still is that intimidate engine as well. So if you're playing a crime deck, you can get good value out of her that way. Salamander Abomination Adrenaline change from 4 to 6. This is welcome change. It was super awkward to play to get. This is like I went on a rant about this, making a video about it, but they have like anti-synergy with the Blenheim brothers, right? Because you need Roland to proc. I was getting mixed up, but you need one brother to put the poison on the unit, and you need the other brother to be out on the board to get the coins from placing the poison on your own unit, and then you need the Abomination to self-clear that so that you can redo that over again. And you're exchanging the poison payment for the boost, which then gets returned to you in coin value if you have the other Blenheim brother. But it requires a lot of setup, and they run out of that ability at a certain point on the adrenaline scale as well. So by the time you were actually getting the purify, the self-purify from the Abomination, you were no longer getting the coins back, making it so it was like an expensive spend onto a card that was already getting this sum of a boost. So you're just like creating this massive tower of a unit that could self-purify, but too late for lack of value out of high provision, mid-range provision cards. Anyway, but we'll walk you through that this season. I'm into my new house. My old house is almost sold, and I'm getting my work more under control. So you'll see videos more regularly. Now, Salamandra Lackey, this is not a small adjustment. This is a huge adjustment. The card was unplayable before. So the first time you gain a coin, each turn boosts self by 1. This is different from if you've gained a coin during your turn, boost self by 1, which made it so it was unplayable with Imki and Tax Collector, which seems like the only way and reason you would want to put lackeys out on the board. But this now will work with Tax Collectors and Imki or other coin-based end of turn coin-based cards. But I'd say predominantly with Tax Collector and Imki. And we'll see if we can get this working with Edoron, Igor, and Portal, but we will see. Salamandra Mage, ability change to tribute 4, damage to adjacent units by 2. Whenever you play a tribute ability, gain 1 coin. I think this is a good change here where it's getting coins when you're playing tributes. And Adrenaline 5, gain 2 coins instead. So you're now seeing this Adrenaline 5 be the kicker for Syndicate, which makes it so and I think this is really important for Syndicate. The adrenaline tickers for Syndicate are 5, or most factions are 4 or 3. Nilfgaard's mostly at 3, Northern Realms and Skellige at 4. So you're seeing this kind of trade-off with Syndicate being able to get the value out of its adrenalines at Adrenaline 5 to close out rounds. Which is something that's really important for Syndicate that struggles with the same type of tempo value that the other decks and other factions have. So you're kind of like, you have a longer ramp up, but it ramps up more quickly to where you peak, and you're able to get out of earlier rounds with better value. And then the Rayla, Savala, Luiza combos, you can only play that once. So you're going to see that in a finishing or a super long round. But these other mid-range Adrenaline 5 cards are going to be played in earlier rounds. So I'm happy to see that. I don't think there's enough changes in order to make that truly the case, but we might see this more. Anyway, Salamandra Mage was a bit underwhelming on release, so we decided to improve him. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, lots of changes here. Players can now click on Order on Dolilok. This is a big change. Playing Siana's Order on Matahuri will not collect you draw 2 cards. That drove me nuts personally. And then units that have Vitality, Bleeding, and Veil at the same time will no longer be able to receive additional stacks of those statuses. So just some bug fixes. They try to put those as game-changing fixes because they came up in some tournaments, but they really are truly bug fixes. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, this wrap up. Look, if there's something you're looking at that you're like, dude, Gone Gwenting, you gotta make a video on this card. You totally underestimated the value of this Regis change from 2 to 3. He is now getting me that 1 point victory every time. Put that in the comments. I want to see it. But until next time, good luck on the path. Get out there. Keep on Gwenting. Bye for now.